My name is Sam Prestwood. I'm working on curriculum assignment number 3 for Dr. Johnson for curriculum 305, and here we go. So the lesson title for this direct lesson plan sample is We're on the Same Team, which is a captivating exploration regarding information pertaining to empowering and integrating power and having many goals but prioritizing one. Pretty well summarized article title. It goes from start to finish on what the goal is here, showing that we're on the same team, and it talks about captivating exploration regarding information pertaining to the empowering and integrate power and having many goals but prioritizing one at a time. The state standard use is P3.1, state an issue as a question in public policy and discuss possible solutions from different perspectives. It's important you include the state standard so you know what the guidelines are for what you're teaching in your lesson plan. The objective starts off with the criteria, which is to follow a group dialogue on what a solution is. The audience is the third grade students. The behavior is to discuss the dialogue, and then the degree is the two possible solutions for a common goal in a whole class setting and orally share out to the whole class. And we go down some, and we go to step number 2, which, sorry, I had to move my paper down behind me. Sorry, just looking over again real quick to make sure I get this right. So starting with the anticipatory set activity, which is step number 1. The teacher comes in dressed as a town clock. Good morning, capable students. Let's stand up and push in our chairs. Next, I want you to get into committees of 3 or 4 citizens. Once you have your committee, raise your hands and I will bring you 2 blank sheets of paper. Now that all of you capable students are in your committees and have your paper, I want to brainstorm 2 possible ways you could throw this paper. We'll set our town clock for 1 minute. During the brainstorm time, I heard a lot of different ideas on how we might throw our piece of paper. Do I have 3 clever students that would like to share their committee talked about? Sounds like we have a very interesting conversation in our groups. And now I want everyone to grab their paper and try out both solutions you thought of. Then you'll report back to work if they worked efficiently or not. Purpose of this is to get the teacher to capture the students' attention by dressing up as a town clock or kind of doing some type of visual to get their it's attention grabber, and then does a good morning to greet the students, show respect, and then basically guides the students on what the idea of the project is here, gives the supplies for it to begin it, and then puts the students into groups and first starts off with brainstorming on how you'd be able to throw your papers, and then goes from there, walks around the classroom, hears different ideas, brings up to the class saying, hey, I'd like 3 clever citizens that would share their committee on what they talked about. Sounds like you had an interesting one. So now you got the initial prep done. Now you move on to step number 2, which is the objective. And you have this graphic that says discuss at least 2 possible solutions for a common goal in a whole class setting. You talk about how looking at this is a picture of a planet with children holding hands around the world. That's supposed to show unity among others, and it's basically painting a picture for the students of what actually working together looks like, and then you apply it to them, saying you want to have 2 possible solutions for a common goal in the whole class setting. And so you put them together, they work together, have at least 2 ways to meet a common goal. Next you move on to purpose, which purpose number 3, which this paragraph describes why we're doing this project and why it's important to be able to discuss and have at least 2 possible solutions for the common goal. And just kind of discussing, gives the students examples of why being able to discuss with each other unity is important to essentially just creativity and human development as in mental, of course, coming up with more ideas and expanding knowledge. Then number 4 is input and modeling, which this paragraph has the teacher talking to the students about looking at the vocabulary that will develop in our time as communities, since the first word is discussed and then goes into what discuss means, gives an example, And then we use next word is community and explains what community is. And then the last word is goal, which is the objective of the person's effort, the result that they want to achieve. So you take your time as the educator here and you discuss what the different vocab terminology is, like the specific ones that are highlighted. Excuse me. And then you explain to the students about how they would work and everything. And kind of just like, you want to make sure that they understand before they begin so that they're learning what it means and practicing at the same time. And then as we move down, we get back to a new graphic. It's the same graphic as before of the world that says discuss at least 2 possible solutions for a common goal in a whole class setting, with the students holding hands around. But now you have discuss, goal, community. You have the 3 vocab words used tied into it. And now we move down to the focus questions, which goes as next up, curious students. We'll look at some questions related to our community. I want you to think about the answer, then share it with your friends in your community. The first question is, how many people do you think there needs to be to create a community? Think for 1 minute, then share. Great. Our next question is, why do you think it's important to have a common goal? Think. Now share with a community member. Awesome sharing. Now citizens, the last question is, what do you think would be a good common goal for everyone in the world? This was some excellent discussion. Townspeople, I heard fantastic ideas floating around the neighborhood. Let's go ahead and everyone write their answers from the last question on the whiteboard. What do you think would be a good common goal in the world? Then we will go through them and talk about our options. Next, we move to the who, what, when, where, and why. Where, when, and why. The 5 W's of teaching. And as a teacher goes, she uses them as examples of what it means to have a common goal in the community. A group of people who have shared interests, help empowered people all the time and everywhere. That goes over to 5 W's. She uses a YouTube link. I don't want to read back to you what you wrote, of course. So you use a YouTube link and kind of just like has a visual to go with it now. With the community, discuss the type of what type of community you live in, how you know that, and then kind of like opens up the idea of like, all right, now that you understand what a community is, you visualize community, how is your community around you? Like how do you, as you say, type of community, what type of community you live in, and how do you know that? It has the students collaborate with each other to figure that out. And then the next graphic is be kind to everyone all at a time. Checking for understanding is step number 5. Step number 5 is essentially just kind of like going over a review and making sure like the students understand what you've been talking about, and going over like we've been talking about the vocabulary words community, develop, and I'm sorry, let me make sure I got those vocab words right. Discuss, goal, and community. So you want to go over those again to make sure they actually understand and not just repeating back what you said, but like after using their interpersonal definitions, they actually understand what it is. So she has the groups go out, the different committees go at a time and discuss the different questions. And then next is a guided practice, which is step number 6, which is for the students to be working in their community to discuss and create a common goal for our community, and that's given 15 minutes to work on it. You should plan to spend about half of your time discussing what kind of goal your committee will be making, and then the other half into making a poster with your goal on it. And then the independent practice, which is step number 7, which is the homework that's assigned for the class, which is I want to discuss with you. I want you to discuss with someone at your house what they think a good common goal is for the community they live in. Then I want you to write it down on this sheet of paper and draw a picture to go along with it. Also, going back to step number 5, I feel like I didn't explain that too well. The point of that part is you're supposed to encourage the students to spend time about what it means to have a common goal, and kind of like you're basically reflecting back on what you taught during the lesson, but like as like additional review without just basically telling the students like, oh, review what this is. No, you want to still apply the situation or the environment that you're building around this lesson plan, and you just want to make sure like they actually do understand what it is, and kind of like go over, have it share with the class since they're in groups, maybe really fast or everything like that. But yeah, so going over the steps here, just want to make sure I hit everything right. The teacher in each of the steps is based on what the step is. you're kind of doing what the step says, but you're putting it to the tone of like how you want to teach your class. As this teacher wanted to do a theme, you can go with your theme. You can kind of make it more like have the students work more in it versus you just lecturing to them. It's all about what the teacher likes. Um, the students are engaged physically and cognitively in each step. Went over that. How did you author of the lesson? Utilize visuals in the lesson. You use the different visuals. Sorry, I'm just going over this real quick to make sure I got it. Um, so this process influenced my lesson plan number 1 with trying to like create like a theme. Like when I came up with the idea of going over the United States becoming a superpower in the world politics, I used this as an example of like how to kind of like keep the theme going of like I was using political cartoons as my visual, having the students be in groups and talk amongst each other and kind of like almost give each other their own review, because I always found that to be pretty helpful. Like if I was tasked with talking with a fellow scholar about what we just learned, it's kind of like if you miss something, you didn't want to admit it, they might say it to you and like you're like, oh, okay, sweet, now I got it, I didn't have to embarrass myself. So I feel like that's a pretty good one with that. And then let me go back to step number 4. That was for answer number 3. It has here, just make sure I got this. Components are to be included in the input modeling section. Cite their researchers. Well, I'm gonna include my answer to number 3 in either a side video or just a written document because I'm running out of time. But thank you very much. This has been Sam Presswood, assignment number 3 for curriculum 305 for Dr. Johnson. Have a good one.